when it comes up. It's a skinny one. There's a fat one and then a skinny
Yeah,
one.
but that one was the one I got.
Clay will help you.
I think it's the little skinny one over there.
Yeah, it's over there on the side right
Yeah, right here.
There, thank you.
Appreciate it. I was headed for it.
How long is it gonna be gone?
Wow. That's different. Hi. Yeah. How are you? Good. How are you? Welcome. Not well. I was just at the doctor today.
Here you are, darling, before I forget, you forget.
Thank you.
Another bag to carry. It'll even you out.
Exciting wrecking cruise. I'll be anxious to hear. Sorry.
No big deal.
I called my husband and he actually met me in the driveway. Yeah, and my battery died on me on my car and I had to have my foot worked on because of the bone. It's out of place and just a bunch of. It's not a good day.
I've had several of those. No, we haven't rescheduled it. We've been 2 more days to Baylor.
To go and get this because I made all kinds of things to discuss and when you went up to Missouri, and it was crispy. You could make surgery, you know, but that was never gone. We got it, you know, cut it, you know, the young rose, and that's really when the bell did. It's laid down.
So we did get some, so you know, things we have enough for winter. But we didn't think we were gonna get anything.
So he did all this procedures with me.
Are you ready?
One of the nicest of what the rain did.
Oh.
It's like God's
And they're
water.
great, my bright myrtles are beautiful. My Esperanza is just brilliant yellow. It's beautiful.
Good day. Let's take a breath.
Well, of course. Yes. And then 2 by the air conditioner breakfast.
We're ready when you are.
Being 7:01, we'll call the September 14th, 2022 planning and zoning meeting to order. Stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public participation. If you wish to address the commission, please fill out a public meeting appearance card and present it to the town administrator, preferably before the meeting begins. Pursuant to section 551-007 of the Texas Government Code, citizens wishing to address the commission for items listed as public hearings will be recognized when the public hearing is opened. For citizens wishing to speak on the non-public hearing item, they may either address the commission during the public participation portion of the meeting or when the item is considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission. If anyone here wishes to speak on any matter not listed as a public hearing, please make sure to provide your public appearance card to the town administrator now. If you wish to speak on either of the agenda items tonight, you will have that opportunity during the item's public hearing. Discussion and consideration of the August 3rd, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Anybody?
I didn't see it. I make a motion we approve the minute as is.
A second.
Conditional use permit and site plan for Marty B's Event Center. The next item is a public hearing to hear public comment and consider recommendation of the town council regarding an ordinance amending the town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 14-02, Exhibit A, Ordinance 361-05, zoning ordinances by amending Chapter 12, Village Center, Article 12.2, uses permitted by granting a conditional use permit and for approval of a site plan to allow for the operation of an event center use located at IT Neely Road. We will open the public hearing at 7:04. Staff.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. The item before you is for a special event center. As y'all recall, it was, I guess, one of my first meetings here. Y'all had added the definition of a special event center to those uses allowed in the village center. Again, but only by conditional use permit. The applicant is here, as are the engineers from McAdams, Doug Powell and Kara King. Again, this is the property just adjacent to Marty B's off of IT Neely. The issues, of course, are just the fact that there may be limitations that this commission may want to impose on the conditional use permit for that specific use. If you look through your packet and page, sorry, let me get there. 15, no, excuse me, 18. You can see the site plan. The engineer may still have a comment to make. They are working through drainage. I don't know that that would impact your action tonight, but I'll defer to Chris on that. The planner had no comments on the site plan as far as any changes that needed to be made. And then again, you can see that next one is your plat. And that's basically where we are today. I'll answer any questions y'all may have.
Applicant.
Good evening. I'm Doug Powell. I'm with McAdams. I'm an urban planner. We do also have Kara King here, who's with the engineering group to answer any engineering questions that may come up. But there are a couple slides, and you've seen most of these before. The location. Do I have the control? Oh. And back behind 7-Eleven on IT Neely, it's a closer look at it. It's impacted the site by the overhead power line and the floodplain, which is going to come up, which is one of the things we're working with Chris on. This is the new site plan. The building has not changed. The location's not changed. What's really has changed is on the west side, we thought when we came before, and it wasn't for this, but we showed a plan. We thought IT Neely was going to continue in its original configuration, and we had an access point for that parking on the west side of the building. And so that's not going to be there anymore. You drive out there right now, it's gone. So we had to put a cul-de-sac there for that parking and fire. And then you see on the right side, we've cut away part of the property that's impacted by the floodplain. Now we're still working with Chris, and we'd like to be able to reclaim some of that, and whether or not we need to do studies and this and that. But right now we've shown that we've outside of the floodplain and outside of the overhead power lines, which is another thing we're trying to work with Encore to get approval to park underneath those power lines. But the building hasn't changed, the size, the location. We still have that berm around the backside in heavily vegetated area. So anything that happens on the patio, we think will be kind of soundproofed, or the noise will not travel. But it really hasn't changed, and the elevations are still the same. We think it's fitting to the neighbor and what Marty's done. Marty's here, and I'm sure you probably have some questions. And this is how that site fits on the larger. It kind of shows you the adjacency to the properties, especially to the south, really far away. And of course, I guess I should go back. Part of the gravel parking really is overflow parking for Marty's employees, which he's running out of parking, especially once Cloud9 gets built and all that parking goes. So this would provide him additional parking for his employees, but we think there's enough parking for the number of people that would come to any event. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, I think Marty's here to answer any operational questions you have or anything you have. Yes, ma'am.
Site plan, you showed parking around the building, but is it gone now since?
No, the only difference is where that cul-de-sac is on the southwest. Southwest. That used to connect. You see the old IT Neely there, kind of a shadow that used to connect, but that was really the only difference. And then cutting out the parking on the east that's in the floodplain. And in fact, I do have the old plan. I thought maybe someone had. So this was, let's see, before we had that connection to what we thought was going to be IT Neely. It went away, so we made a cul-de-sac. And then on the right-hand side, that southeast corner, we cut away some of that parking because it's technically in the floodplain. Now, 7-Eleven came in and did studies, and that floodplain was affecting their property. Most of their property was in that same floodplain. We too would like to do the studies and hopefully be able to reclaim some of that. But of course, we do have to do studies to do that.
So with those changes, you were parking on the blacktopped area than we had before?
No, the same number of parking. The real parking was a decrease in the overflow parking, the gravel parking. Right now,
Clarify, this is a pretty picture. If you look at page 18, you'll still see all of those parking slots down that. Now he has that bulb for turnaround, if that's what you're referring to. So he still shows all the parking actually on the site plan. This is the pretty stuff.
Yeah. Yes, this is the pretty picture. Yes, there's 100 spaces that are paved and 95 that are gravel on this plan. And again, we hope to come back and be able to add some of that by parking underneath Encore, reclaiming some of that floodplain, but we'll have to work out those details with Chris and FEMA.
And those 100 spaces meet the requirement of the ordinance for this use?
Yes, ma'am. That's the information we got back from the planner.
Perfect. Thanks.
Anybody else have a question? Okay, anyone to speak for or against? Oh, I've got. Is there anybody else that needs to fill one of these out that wants to speak? Okay, Kathy Murph? Is that right, Murph? Yes, state your name and address.
Sure. My name is Katie Murph, and I live at 1033 Hat Creek Road, right over here in Bartonville. I am in favor of this event center. I think that it would add a great value to our cute little town. I think Marty has been consistent at building strong businesses that are successful, and he provides outstanding experiences. And so I feel like for that piece of land, I can't think of anything better to go in that space. I think the architecture fits our town's vibe. I think it'll be a great rural ranch building. And I think all event centers that I attend functions at are farther away. And I think it'd be really great to bring some of that business to this town. And so, yeah, I'm in favor of it. I think it'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Lawson.
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Lawson, and I'm at 1029 Hat Creek Road, actually Katie's neighbor. I'm also in favor of this. I moved out to Bartonville about 3 years ago. And since we've been in Bartonville, Marty B's has become part of our life. I'm not a personal friend of Marty's. I just know him from going down there and talking to him like he talks to everybody that comes in there. And since we've been here, we've done 2 birthdays and 1 wedding rehearsal dinner at his place. So I think this event center would be a great way to further that and have him do those events at even a higher level. And as you guys know, everything Marty does is first class. So I think this would be another first class thing. And that piece of property is, it's not going to be good for a lot. I think this is perfect for him adjacent to his business. So I think it would be great for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak for?
Chairman, we did have the 5 emails, the 4 that got in before the meeting and then 1 that came in right before that should be at your places.
Emails into the,
I don't know what y'all standard is. I certainly can do that if that's.
yeah, that's it's up to you. Yeah,
That's up to
let's
you.
read them into the,
This one is from Mike Mallow at 916 Dove Creek Court. You have these, so you don't have to do that. Thad, I know Marty has a new project on the agenda tonight. I will not be able to attend, but I'd like to send an email on behalf of my support for his proposed event center. I believe it was our first meeting that his project was brought up. I was one of the residents who spoke on behalf of the project. Some of the points I spoke about were Marty will take one of the most challenging and unattractive pieces of property in Bartonville and turn it into an asset for our community. Everything that bears Marty B logo is done in a first-class manner. From the rendering I've seen, not only is it a beautiful architectural design, but it will fit in perfectly with our community. I truly believe if for some reason the town does not approve the Marty B project, there will be a huge opportunity missed. Who else would come in and buy that property? It only makes sense for Marty to parlay it along with his other investments in the town of Bartonville. In my opinion, if Marty is not able to proceed with this project, I can just see the town in the future having to provide some kind of tax incentive to lure a business to take that challenging piece of property and do something productive with it. As a Bartonville resident, builder, and developer, I hope this project is passed with full council support. This one is Dave Matisse. I'm not sure if I'm getting the last name correct. It's Mitteis. He's at 1009 Hat Creek Road. My name is David. Again, last name, I'm not sure. I live at 1009 Hat Creek Road in Bartonville, Texas. I'm writing you to show my support for Mr. Bryan and the potential event center in Bartonville. Mr. Bryan and his family have had a tremendous impact on our community over the last several years. Their businesses are first class, fit with within the guidelines and vision of the community, and provide a wonderful atmosphere for our families to enjoy. I know they will continue to support our rural feel, yet bring opportunity to a piece of land that is challenging to say the least. I'm unable to attend the meeting tomorrow night in person as I am traveling for business, but I look forward to showing my support for this opportunity in person when I return. Thank you for all you do for your community. Sincerely. This one is David Nicholas, 909 Dove Creek Court. Hi, Mr. Chambers. I'm writing to express my full support of the proposed event center on the property owned by Marty Bryan. The event center will be a great addition to Bartonville. 4 years ago, Marty had a vision to build Marty B's, and the restaurant has become a gathering spot for our community and communities around us. This year, Marty opened Marty B's Coffee Company. Marty has built a coffee shop that feels like home. First class all the way and another gathering spot for all to enjoy. Given Marty's proven track record of building businesses that add value to the community, I believe the event center will be a huge success. The property Marty will build on will be a challenge, but I'm glad Marty decided to build a needed and exciting venue for all of us to enjoy. Marty shared with me the architectural rendering of the building, and the structure will complement the rural and ranch lifestyle of Bartonville. As a resident of Bartonville, I cannot wait to walk in the doors of the event center to enjoy the entertainment that Marty will attract. This is Chris and Candy Brown. Dear Mr. Chambers, it is a pleasure introducing myself and my wife Candace. My name is Chris Brown. We reside at 1012 Hat Creek Road in Bartonville. We greatly appreciate your service to the town of Bartonville. This email is in support of the newly proposed event center by Marty Bryan. We fully support the new event center by Marty B. Know that it will be nicely done, adds value to the community, recognize it is a challenging piece of land, and are glad that Marty decided to do something cool with it. Architecture complements the rural and ranch lifestyle of Bartonville. Marty continues to do great things in Bartonville. His ever-present commitment to our community is welcome. Proper growth and expansion is important while maintaining the rural lifestyle uniquely elegant to Bartonville. Marty continues to deliver. Thank you for accepting this letter of support. And then the last one that came in at 4:30 today. Good evening. I reside at 1008 Hat Creek, and we vote in favor of Marty Bryan's submitted application for conditional use permit and site plan for an event center at 1001 IT Neely. Thank you, Monica Bates. That's it. And we did not receive any negative emails or comments.
Anyone to speak against? So I guess there's no rebuttal then. We'll close the public hearing at 7:18. One of my concerns is the gravel parking lot. Are you comfortable with the gravel parking lot?
So my understanding is that the actual venues, spots will all be concrete, but the gravel is pretty much all overflow. And so I don't see any issue with having that extra parking.
So is that equivalent to the parking lots that's there now? And I'm assuming we haven't had problems with the one that's.
So we haven't got far enough into design where we know exactly what the materials are, but I'm expecting the same thing you guys did on the north side of Marty B's. So it'll be that caliche stone, like on the north side.
Okay. So they haven't told us.
All that we have from a design perspective is the site plan, pretty much. They haven't got into any engineering as far as layout, grading, elevations, anything along those lines. The reason the drainage came up is because a site this size generally would need some sort of detention facility because of just the size and the extra runoff. However, it's sitting right up against the floodplain. And so because of that, on a big storm, it's a lot of times advantageous to get the runoff from the properties close to the floodplain out of the way. So the bigger part of the watershed doesn't have such a high peak when it all hits. And so that's what we're talking about doing, is running that hydrology to see what they need to do with the property to make that happen. So
To do that.
basically, they've just got to run calculations of the different storm events, so the 5 to 10 to 1500 year storms. So they're gonna run those storms at how it works right now. And then they're gonna run it with how it's gonna do after all this stuff is built. And the idea is that, you know, today the 10-year is gonna be 100 CFS. And when they're done, that 10-year is gonna be 100 CFS or less. Because that water that would normally peak there is already gonna be out of the way. So instead of peaking at the same time as all this other area, it's gonna be out of the way. Because if you look at the plan, the watershed, that area is enormous, 1,000 acres, something like that. It's 1,000 acres. And so we're talking about 3 acres at the very end of it. So as long as that amount of runoff gets out of the way before all the rest of this stuff hits, it'll basically have no impact or possibly could improve the drainage today compared to today.
That can be done before the council meeting?
It'll be done before preliminary plat. So that'll be the first thing that they work on. They want to lock in their site, make sure it's good before they go any farther.
And planning and zoning will see that as well. Again, you'll get to see the plating and everything else. This is for the site plan and CUP.
Yeah.
Questions?
I don't have questions about that, since that really wouldn't tie in with what we need to do tonight, but I do. My two concerns are security and sound. That's pretty much what we always have. And I see that our chief of police is here, and I wonder if you would share with us any concerns you have or anything that we need to know about as we're working on this CUP.
Chairman and board members and staff. So my concern is we want, if this does go through, that we want these to be safe events. That's where we're coming from. And Marty knows me well enough that we care about that quite a bit, even at his place. Typically, there have been some questions to me about certain things like some of these events will have alcohol. They just do, be it a wedding, be it whatever. Those tend to bring something, not saying it would happen there, but we want to be on the safe side. So some recommendations that mean this officer Wood here, he does work a lot of these types of events off duty. And he's a little better versed than I am in it because I don't do that. And I'm going to let him talk to you here in just a second. But there are some things we would like to see put in place that Marty would like to pass on to whoever's renting his facility, so we make sure that everybody's safe when they attend these events. And one of those is if there's alcohol, for sure. And if there's 50 to
75 people, 2 officers. If there's a bar, gonna be outside, inside kind of thing. So if they have 2 different sizes of a bar, I would definitely have 2 officers, even if it's under the 50 people, because if something happens over here, this bar is left open for something else that possibly could happen. Not saying it would, but from the other venues I've worked, if there's 2 bars, they need 2 officers. So, minimum.
And then one bar, 50 to 75 minimum, 2 officers. Anything under that, 1 officer is fine.
Whether there's alcohol or not.
Right. Yes.
And a lot of things that I've come across over the years of working at these venues is people like to, even if there's no alcohol allowed at the venue at that time, their deal, they like to have it out in the parking lot. So what they'll do is they'll go out in the parking lot, drink as much as they can real quick, get back in there, and then even though there's nobody drinking inside there, they still have it there. And so that's a big issue that I've ran into at other venues. So if you've got 1 officer inside and 1 officer outside, when they go out watching them, they can see, hey, why do they keep going back to that car? So
again, if there's nobody there, if we simply say alcohol's the trigger for us to staff these things, we can't rule out the fact that people, believe it or not, don't follow the rules. And that's what we have to deal with. So they do go outside and they do bring things to these events, and it has nothing to do with Marty or the way he runs his business or whoever's running these things. That's just what people do. We've experienced it. So what was the other ones?
which ones?
So there needs to be some sort of standard for what these officers are going to get paid.
Yes.
And that's based on kind of the going rate as far as what we allow our officers to work at, because it's really not worth their while, because some of them drive from who knows where to come to these things. And so the going rate right now is $50 an hour. If that's something that y'all want to put into that, that's
what surrounding venues pay their officers, is 50 an hour. A lot of times the contract will specifically say how much they're getting paid, and they have to pay upfront before when the officer gets there, that's when they pay the officer. So it doesn't, at the end of the night, everybody's trying to clean up and go home, they don't forget to pay, and that's one of the big things is.
And he told me earlier that the places that he works, they typically get a 4-hour minimum.
Mhm.
So if it's an hour, they get paid 4 hours. I'm more apt to go with 2 hours, a 2-hour minimum, because there may be an hour-long event. Right. So, and then they have to be a full-time certified peace officer, not somebody that they hire from an armed security guard or one of these kind of things. They need to be, I can say have to, but we would like for them to be full-time paid peace officers, because if you have the security guards there, they're going to end up calling us anyway to come handle whatever it is they're dealing with. So it makes more sense just to have somebody there that can take action immediately.
And a lot of times the reason that the paid security guards, they don't have the power of arrest. They don't have the powers that a full-time peace officer has. And a lot of times they'll try to bring in outside police officers from like different counties, different areas. It don't ever work out like that because they don't know those surrounding, they don't know the areas. A lot of times when they have a venue like that, people from the community come in. And a lot of times the officers already have a rapport with a lot of people. So I call it verbal judo. So you can talk somebody down if something else happens. From an outside perspective, he doesn't care about, trying to talk the situation out. He's just ready to arrest and take him to jail. That's not what we kind of want. So Like Wise County, when they do theirs, a lot of Wise County officers handle it, or within the surrounding area within like 50 miles, because everybody knows everybody in that community. So that's a big reason why local PD is better than, trying to get just anybody that, say if I had a wedding and I have a buddy that's a cop, I'd call him to come work. And it don't always work out like that. So it's better to have the local.
Ed, how do we need to put this in?
Could be a condition.
Do we need to write a separate document to go into that? If they can put in writing for you to write us,
Could it be a separate document attached to the ordinance? Or actually just inside the ordinance text itself? Either way.
Is there a plan now in this surrounding community or even at Marty's place right now? Is there-
Marty's presented something to us before, and I don't remember exactly what all. you
What
had
kind of
told us
security
before.
do you have in place right now, Marty?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, we currently have.
I'm just proud that Bobby and Officer Wood are concerned about safety for me. Number one thing we talk about at my place is safety. If you ask any of my employees, any of my managers, safety is top of mind always. Before even you getting your food, any of that, it's always about safety. So thank you all very much. Currently, we pay $50 an hour and we do a 4-hour minimum with our current officers that work at Marty B's on Friday and Saturday. The only caveat I would say is that after Officer Mello went over to Argyle, he currently works there now. We've discovered that finding officers on Friday and Saturday night in some of these workforces where there's a challenge to hire officers is different than it was when we had Officer Mello every night. So certainly we have security at Marty B's every Friday and Saturday, but if we have events and I have to have 2 officers, 3 officers, 4 officers, depending upon how you all write the CUP to staff my event center, and I can't go and hire them, that puts me in a tough situation, right?
I would say the answer to that is whatever you want to do has to go through the chief.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what the way that we would like to see it done is that if this is a conditional use, we know that has to happen. And we will be responsible for staffing that.
That'd be awesome.
Because a lot of times, and he can speak for this, how long have you worked that venue?
7 years.
A lot of times like Milo, how long did he work for you?
2.5.
You get these guys that do this and they'll stick with that event for as long as they can. Like Milo took another job, so he can't do it now. So he's doing it for 7 years. That's just how this works. These guys you'll find the good ones that come in there and work and do what they're supposed to do. You probably had no problems out of Milo and they stay. So the burden to staff, we'd be more than happy to help him with that. He wouldn't necessarily have to do that staffing. We could do it. That way we can put somebody in there that we know and that we like,
That was my
that
point.
we would,
I express the same feeling. I want there to be presence there. I mean, ultimately it's to protect the brand and protect everybody there. I mean, I would want.
and your facility.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
We just need, Ed, I think we just need something in writing. That we can get before the council meets on this. And I guess if you can,
Any questions that y'all have regarding any of this?
Obviously, you two will have to coordinate, and Bobby and our police officer at the department, they're gonna need lead time. So I think maybe, especially because of you working together, is there a way to put together a calendar of where you can both access and know, okay, we're gonna have 75 people on this night ahead,
I don't know whether you
Uh,
get things at the last minute.
Well,
as well as long-term stuff like weddings or not.
yes, ma'am. That's a great question. I've never ran an event center, but I have several friends that own them and operate them, and I've, asked a lot of questions about it. Most wedding venues, if you go and try to book a wedding on a Friday or Saturday, they're booked a year or two out, right? So I would say every Friday and every Saturday, yes, we have to have people. And then what we do outside of those days will vary, right? Sometimes people want a more economical wedding. Well, hey, that's a great night. Monday's a great night for an economical wedding, or Sunday or whatever. So I suspect that, and again, I don't know that we'll just be exclusively doing weddings because of us providing a service to the community. I think we'll be doing a lot of sports banquets, galas, chamber, they have their end of the year thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have events for that are during the week, which is great. But I suspect that most Fridays and most Saturdays will be booked. And like I've said before, the average size of a wedding party is 100 to 150 people. Even though we're going to be able to accommodate 296, that's a rarity to have that many people at a wedding, especially with how expensive it all is nowadays.
Chief, from a staffing perspective, it was a 30-day minimum notice. Is there any way that we could work something there where we would have that notice so that you can manage that?
Yeah, I think
Is there anything you won't have an event for? That you'll refuse to approve?
Oh, gosh, that's a loaded question.
No.
Well, I always say I'm a Christian conservative. So there would be certain events I probably wouldn't endorse because everything I say yes or no to defines my brand. And so I would never endorse or support an event that wasn't aligned with how I believe philosophically.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I have a hard time turning away people if I know I can count on them to be respectful and align with the things I feel like as a community we align with. So I'm trying to be cautious with how I say that, but that's my position.
So just to elaborate on the staffing issue, other events, they have a month calendar, and with the police department or the coordinator that I work with over here, he will have that month in advance, and he will send out to the officers that have applied to work these events, and he will, I guess, vet them to see, what kind of officer they are. And when I say community officers, I mean, like if somebody tried to come from Dallas to want to work over here, they couldn't just bring them in before we had a chance to talk to them, check them out, see what kind of officers they are temperament wise. Most of the time over there, we have a set group of people that, hey, I can work every other weekend, or I'll take Friday nights, or I'll take every other Friday night. So most of the time we have our people that we know that's going to be there. And we have over there, I think we have 9 officers that are guaranteed to work. And then if somebody's not there, say that the last minute he calls in and says, hey, I can't come, the coordinator, whoever would be for our police department, would take over. That's where his responsibility is, to go work that. So whoever was put as a coordinator here would have to go work that event for that evening, But again, he checks everybody out. They do like Wise County, Montague, but they won't do way outside of somebody like, hey, I got a buddy that's a cop that wants to work it. He can't just come in that night before he has a chance to come in and let us know, because the brand is very important. We want to make sure that cop ain't like some gung ho, oh, you got problems, start handling it like that. And that's where we come in and we kind of check them out before you have to, deal with that. So
We've been pulling officers from Justin PD and Northwest. I mean, so we've had couple of different folks come in lately, but the officer from Justin seems to be like he's going to be a regular or a steady person we can count on.
and that's the kind that we want, is somebody like Mello. He was always there. People loved him, people knew him. When you keep bringing in new officers and nobody knows, the trust is kind of hard to build. Like, everybody loved Mello. I mean, he's a good dude. It's one of those things that we get a group of people that, hey, we can pull from this anytime. That's the staff that we figured out we can trust. That's what we want to build, is so your company knows us, we know your company, and it's not like an awkward, or somebody comes in and doesn't know how to.
I think
I have questions. Go ahead.
I think our police department can work with that.
Sure.
we need Ed to get something in writing. So we have it all in place. So when Marty retires and somebody else takes over, we have something in writing and to
The
enforce it.
only other thing I would add in regards to safety with the way we operate is that, we're going to be operating the venue, right? So all of my people that serve alcohol, we require them to be TABC certified, so they have all the knowledge within their position to know when and not to know when not to serve folks. And even though it's uncomfortable, again, what's the number one thing we focus on? Safety. I'd rather someone be angry and get home safely than we make them happy and they injure someone on the way home. But because we operate it and we most always have a lot of people working, that gives us another layer, in my opinion, another layer of security and safety that maybe other venues wouldn't have, because a lot of venues, they just farm everything out, right? They don't even operate them. We're going to operate it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question, not for you, Marty, but for the chief. So like, what if there's some sort of emergency in Denton County? Is there any way that whoever got assigned to Marty, that he might find himself left out because everyone has to go? Okay, perfect. Okay.
That's their responsibility is for his, it's almost like a.
Okay.
It's almost like a tiny business agreement for that night, like a contract night. We wouldn't even lean on those people if they were over there working. Their primary job is to him or whoever's leasing it or renting it, whatever.
So what your choice is, and I think we need to know how you feel too, and I think I got it, would be rather than you have to go look for people, have them, tell them what you need, have them get it all set up and you don't have to worry about it. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't want to put that burden on Bobby. Ultimately, I think it'd be my responsibility. If I couldn't get it satisfied, then I would get Bobby to help me, but I would want to be in charge of who I'm going to staff. And then if I can't do it, then Bobby helps me. Now, if Bobby and the team want to vet them and do all that, that's great. But I'm just not asking for help. That's all I'm saying, unless I can't
I think
find
we
it on
want
my own.
Bobby,
We're offering. That's.
I think we want Bobby to vet.
Well, I welcome that. I'm just don't want to put anyone out.
We're not putting us out. We feel, the reason why I'm saying this is because we would feel 100% more comfortable knowing that we made that choice on who's going into your place to protect it,
I love it. That would be my preference too.
including your restaurant.
Yeah.
So that's why we called on Milo to do that.
Mhm.
So, because we know we have the relationships with the people and we know who we can and who we think we do, who we can and can't trust.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal, like you said.
I think we're good. We just need to get it in writing.
Can I
Go ahead.
say, as far as writing an ordinance, do we want to write too much detail into the ordinance? I mean, when you start putting pay scales into a ordinance, what happens, 5 years from now with inflation? We're going to come back and change the ordinance. And I mean, I think we can write too much detail in it. I appreciate what we're trying to do. And I also look at, at Marty, it's his business. I mean, he should have some control over who, he hires for security and such,
Say competitive pay,
or just,
whatever's competitive. or-
I don't know that we should be getting into the pay on it or.
I don't remember us ever delving into the case side of things.
Well, we haven't really, since I've been here, dealt with something like this. So
I'm not suggesting by any means of putting a pay requirement in.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I misunderstood you.
At this point,
The number of officers per people is all.
But just remember that you get what you pay for. And we all know that at some point in time in our life, you get what you pay for, and especially if you want to kick a tire and pay $30 an hour for an officer, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, and for the record, that's what we've paid. We've paid 50 an hour, 4-hour minimum. So even if they're only there for 3 hours, we're like, well, hey, that's on us, right? We still pay them for 4.
we can write it up.
We're good. We're
I
good.
think the security part's okay.
And,
What-
and,
Go ahead.
and we have under 50, whether there's alcohol or not, 1 police, correct? And then 2, if it's.
Now, if there's 2 bars, that's going to
If
require
it's-
2.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
my recommendation.
Right. Let me get this
Can't be
down,
at both
because we're
places
gonna
at
have
the
to
same
put it in here.
one peace officer per under 50. 50 up, 2 peace officers. Is there a point where you'd need more than that with that 296 max?
That would probably recommend 3, just because that is a lot of people. And the only reason that without alcohol, an officer's there, being that Marty B has a restaurant next door, if somebody thinks that they can just come on in and check it out, that officer would be the person to stop them from just coming in and ruining somebody else's event. Because a lot of times whenever somebody is not in uniform, they're gonna try to walk past them or not listen to them as well. You have a full dress peace officer, they're gonna turn around and walk out. Hopefully, that's our
Goal.
head off any kind of problems before they happen in there. Oh, you can't tell me
So
leaving.
where's your break between 50 to what is 2 and what to 296 would be 3?
Yeah, yeah.
202.
Right, 50 to 100.
200.
200. And then 200 plus 3.
Yes, ma'am.
If there's 2 bars.
Now, if there's 2 bars, there's 2 people.
Yeah.
Right, so
Uh,
one peace officer per bar.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
you just said that.
Yeah.
You're good.
You be running more bars every.
If we miss anything.
That's where the scheduling comes into.
Yeah.
Um.
Are
Because
we, are we saying that from 50 to 200, if there's only 1 bar, you really would only need 1 person?
Well, my goal is to generate sales. So the faster I can sell it, better off I am. So ultimately, we have to do it responsibly, but if people are at my space, I want to be able to serve them quickly and efficiently. So I'll probably have them both open. I would say most of the time, but on a 50 person, I mean, 1 bartender can do it.
yeah,
That's kind of, I think the 2 would go together. He's probably gonna have both of them going because you don't want people standing in line.
Right.
Mhm.
That you're-
And point of clarification, this is not aggregate. If you had 296 people and both bars open, you're not looking at 5 officers, you're looking at 3. Okay. Just clarify.
Anybody else on this? Anything else?
Oh, no, not on security.
He can ask for whatever.
I guess that,
Right.
trying to say, if Marty's uncomfortable, he's gonna ask for more officers.
Depending on the event.
And then do you not need to have, if you're handling the calendar and they don't see the calendar, then how much lead time? I mean, you guys need to know what's going on too in order to have people staff our regular police department, right?
Yes.
So how would you do that? Or
I mean, we'll have the person that's in charge of all that in the calendar that could just have weekly or bi-weekly correspondence and say, here's where we are for the month or for
There's
the.
gonna be that last minute booking, I'm sure. It's gonna happen. So there's gonna be some that slip through the cracks. We put a 60-day notice or whatever. Right? There's gonna be that one that says, oh my gosh, we gotta have it. Oh, we're open. You have it. So. Well, I don't know how you word that in. I don't know how you, it's gonna be that's gonna be my responsibility too, to also contact them and say, what do you got coming up? And like I said, once we get something set in stone, he knows that he's been there 7 years. If you get that out, like Milo knows, every Friday and Saturday, without question, he's going. That's how this will get. So
would it be reasonable to say every 2 weeks? No matter what, there'd be something sent between the 2 of you if you're in a slow period or whatever. And then updates as soon as things come in, if there's something to be added to that 2 weeks that you were working on. Is that a reasonable way to do it? I don't know, guys, you need to help us.
I don't think we need to write any of that in there. I mean, let us operate our business. And we're gonna have security. You tell me how many I gotta have with each level of increment of people, we're gonna do it. Managing a schedule and trying to manage my schedule, you don't want to do that, I promise.
I'm worried about them not knowing, so that we end up.
Not gonna be a problem.
No,
Is it gonna be a problem, Bobby? Not gonna be a problem.
Share his
You guys can
calendar
make it
without
calendar.
them having
Alright.
permission to change it. It's easy.
Yeah.
For his restaurant, to see who's gonna be playing on. I think that's what I do.
Right,
Same
thing, Yeah.
Martinville School.
right.
That's just what I do.
So there's already communication.
Because he books people 6 months in advance, so.
Okay.
I don't think there's a problem. Yeah.
Okay, anything else that we,
Not on security, but just a question he asked you about what sort of events you would not have in there. Can you expand a little bit more? I mean, this is a public
Need to be
facility.
careful.
Huh?
We need to be a little careful on that.
Okay, I'll stop talking.
No, I'm just,
Yeah,
I think Marty answered it.
okay,
Probably y'all can talk afterwards if you want.
yeah. I was just curious that
Yeah.
came up, yeah.
is there any other engineering thing that we need to address?
No, one thing that we're kind of talking about is how much access you have planned between Marty D's and the event center. I know you're gonna cook there, Bruce it over. But now IT Nealon is gonna be kind of through street with Hudson Hills, so that access between the two. I don't know if you've got a game plan, if you think you need a game plan, but you have started thinking about that much?
Yes.
Okay, you wanna tell us what your thoughts are?
Okay, so I have a mobile smoker that we're gonna be able to do a lot of food with and it's on wheels, so I can move it over there, leave it there, and we also, can have food delivered there for each of the events to our Benny Keith distribution thing. It won't be a cooking kitchen, it'll be a prep kitchen. So there will be some things that will be brought over. I bought a vehicle that just transports the product over. It won't be like in a wheelbarrow on a golf cart. It'll be in a branded vehicle. And but I would, it makes the most sense for us to do like fajitas or brisket, stuff like that. That's easy. But I mean, you're talking about probably one trip there and back. So it won't be a ton. And I'm already doing it at the coffee shop and Marty B's. Every day we have all the smoked meats dropped off at Marty B's to go open today. And so we're doing the same thing there. We have a vehicle that, basically delivers food to those two entities out of Marty B's. And I know they don't cross over IT Neely, but they're still
I don't think there's anything in the same thing right now. Are you thinking about doing that?
well, I think it will be smart for us to have some type of pedestrian crosswalk there, because I know there's going to be traffic going back and forth, and a lot of it may be pedestrian. So, I'm open to that. Ultimately, I want it to be safe for people to
Didn't we
get to and
talk
from.
about that at DRC?
Yes, sir.
That you might put a sign.
Well, we could do a sign.
So that-
We could mark the walkway or something, if it's painted with caution or whatever. That would be one thing. Every day my employees leave Marty B's and go to 7-Eleven and get an energy drink, right? I mean, they're doing it, all day, every day now. So, but to Chris's point, we don't yet have Hudson Ranch or Hudson Hills. Yeah. We don't yet have that traffic coming through there yet either, but with 33 homes, it's not like it's going to be a ton. And it's my understanding that they're going to have a gated exit. Is that true? Do you know? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Any,
We talked about outdoor music in DRC that we haven't talked about here with everybody that needs to discuss that too.
Okay.
Marty, address please for everybody your what you would like to do for outside music.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I think we had talked before that, we weren't going to have outdoor music unless it was an outdoor wedding and they're playing Here Comes the Bride or whatever that is, but that would be as part of a ceremony. It wouldn't be like, okay, we're going to have an outdoor concert. We have that, at Marty B's, but any music we would have at the space would be indoors. So that's kind of what we were thinking on that. And most of the weddings I've been to, most of the music's inside anyway, no matter what the weather's like. Because people want to kind of get out and they're going to want to smoke and break away or whatever. So
That's a little bit different than what I remember from the DRC meetings, which is you wanted some kind of ambient, something or other playing outside. Have you changed your mind on that?
ambient, I mean, just,
You know, like the kind of music like you have playing outside at the coffee shop.
oh, that may be
Not
possible.
amplified stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Just-
certainly. I mean, ultimately, we would want to create the right atmosphere, and certainly music does that. Is the coffee shop music loud? Outdoors?
I don't know. About that. I just want to know what you're gonna. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'll have,
Not amplified,
yeah, I'll
but
probably
what we
have,
people are Wanting to put somebody out there with playing guitars or whatever. We have to try to see.
well, could I have, I mean, if I had somebody out there playing a guitar and they're not amplified, I still have an ambient music without it being so that I can hear it at my house. Note that the closest house behind me will be me facing that direction. Of course, we'll have the Hudson Hills people, but the event center is pointed directly toward my house. But I'll probably have speakers on the outside space, like underneath the patio that faces to the back, but I don't know that I'll have them anywhere else. I mean, we may have some portable speakers we set up for a wedding or something like that, but ultimately I'll have to be within the sound ordinance on anything I do that already exists.
Is there a cap or an hour on both your restaurant and the coffee shop for the music time? I mean, is there a end time and are they the same in both those buildings that you already have?
On live music from Marty B's?
Yeah, whether it's live or not live, just music, period, that's outdoors.
At Marty B's, I have music going the whole entire time I'm open, from 11 a.m. until probably midnight. Currently on Friday and Saturday, we close at 10 during the week, so it's probably going on till 10:30. And then the coffee shop, we're closing at 9 during the week, 10 on Friday, Saturday. But I have, I think, 4 speakers there. But remember, when I built the coffee shop, you all would only allow me to face them south and west. It's what I did. And they're on the ground, they're not on the building. And it's barely audible. You're welcome.
What did you say? I couldn't write as fast as you were talking. On the time for the coffee shop, your times for the coffee shop.
Yeah, so we're open at 6 a.m. and then we're closed at 9 during the week and then 10 on Friday and Saturday. We close at 5 on Sunday. Yes, ma'am. And ultimately, I want to be a good partner with Bartonville. I want y'all to be proud of what we do. I want to, be respectful of my neighbors. I know not everybody loves me, and that's okay. There's some haters out there, and that's expected. I've never intended to serve 100% of the people. Ultimately, my goal is to be able to serve the people that appreciate the value and the experience that we provide. Some people love it, some people don't. That's life. But I do want to make the town happy. That is a genuine concern for me.
And I'm unaware of anyone in this room that doesn't appreciate what you do. I do want to remind you, however, that when we write these, if for some reason your world would completely change and you lived elsewhere, what we do with this stays with the land.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have to get it right, because if Marty leaves and we get Mr. I mean, and I don't care what you want in there, and we didn't put it in the CUP here, then there's nothing we can do about it later. So anything that goes into this, bear in mind, we're not just looking at Marty B, who's doing a great job for our town.
And I appreciate that. I
So
totally
I
get
want
it.
you to understand that if, like, I understand, what you're saying about, of course, you're, working with the music ordinance or sound ordinance and all that. But we have to make sure this is tight for when Marty B retires and somebody else shows up that isn't as respectful as you are. So that doesn't mean we don't like you, Marty.
Oh, I don't.
Gloria, I think that just having officers there, they understand sound. And so if there's people getting unruly and getting too loud, the chief can.
Yeah, well, the chief's always
Right.
pretty honest with me about stuff. If
So
he's
I feel comfortable with that if they're comfortable, because they're, going to be there. So
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions? Motion.
Well, we're not to that point yet. You need to figure out what the motion is. And don't you think?
Yeah. That's why I was asking you to read the motion. You've been making the notes.
Any other questions?
Not for me.
Happy to
Thank you.
cover anything else. Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember that we were at DRC. And these guys haven't been, but they have talked to you, when you've been in here before, but enlighten us on what you're gonna do for lighting.
Well, lighting on the outside, if I have lighting on the outside, which I'm sure I will, it'll either be coming up from the ground or it'll probably be the same string lighting I have on my patio at Marty B's. I don't know of any other lighting that I love that creates the right atmosphere. Because to me, lighting is very important, right? I always say this, but people look better and drink more when the lights are low. So I gotta follow my own advice, Gloria.
So we're not gonna have
Bright
Kroger
lights.
parking light,
No, ma'am.
light stuff.
ma'am.
on
And you all know that when the engineers create the parking lot, they have to have a light study done that has what's it called? They have to have photometrics done on the lighting, that it's not too bright, but yet bright enough to cover the space. I guarantee it'll be a lot less bright than 7-Eleven. That answers your question.
Yeah. Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we're ready to put together what we want to do. All right.
We need the chief and Ed to get together to write the security.
Do we not need to just put this in the,
Put it in the motion and then we can,
yeah, we should be able to put this in the,
you can generally put it in the motion and then we'll hash out the details for the ordinance going to the council.
all right, so the one thing which I took notes on that needs to be in the CUP has to do with the security. That's the big deal. So correct me if I'm wrong. One peace officer, and peace officers mean full-time certified peace officers. That's a requirement. One peace officer for 1 to 50 people, unless there's 2 bars, and then it would be 2 police officers. The next segment would be 50 to 200, and that would require 2 peace officers regardless of whether it's 1 or 2 bars. The third segment would be 200 plus attendees, and that would require 3 peace officers.
Agree.
Did I miss anything here?
Nope, I think you got it.
And coordination will be made between Bartonville Police Department and Marty Bryan and his people.
Maybe Marty B, don't say my name personally.
Marty B.
There you go.
Marty B and his
Marty B.
people and Marty B's people.
There you go.
All right, however you want to put that.
Town attorney to write official agreement.
Then outdoor music, no amplification. Yes, no, what?
I think they,
I think it's
We're
been
gonna have some speakers.
if they're doing the bridal thing, there will be some amplification for that.
Am I
Can
missing?
you just use the current sound ordinance that's submitted as
Yeah.
a guideline for how sound is measured on the space?
Am I misinterpreting amplification to? If you have speakers, it's not the same as if you have somebody with rock and roll plugged in stuff like that. Does that all fall under the same thing or not?
Yeah, it does.
It does?
Everything's under the sound, it's called the noise ordinance. Everything is applicable under the noise ordinance, whatever the noise is, whether it's canned or live.
So
So he has to comply with the current ordinance, noise ordinance.
in the current noise ordinance, we have nothing about amplified versus not amplified, correct?
Don't make that distinction.
My concern has to do with those houses that are going to be built a whole lot closer than where Hat Creek is. The way sound.
Noise
travels,
ordinance would,
the way sound travels and the way, even within the ordinance that Marty's so careful of on weekends. Even over in Saddlebrook, it carries over there. These houses are far closer than Saddlebrook is. And I think we need to look at amplification issues.
And also just point out that the homes that are in Hudson Hills are far closer to Marty B's than they will be to the next center. And I'm currently living under the existing noise ordinance in Marty B's, with neighbors that are literally gonna be 50 feet from my stage.
What? I'm sorry. Back up and say that again to me.
So the homes
Marty,
that are in. Hudson Hills-
Marty, would
Go
you
ahead,
mind,
go
please?
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Here you
That way we can get it on.
Yeah, so the homes that are going to be in Hudson Hills that are on the easternmost part of the property, their property line is literally, I would say it's probably 75 feet from my stage. I'm going to have, there's the 5-acre easement between my event center and the next home on the southernmost part of Hudson Hills. Okay, so that's going to be a common area that's going to be used by the neighborhood. So, and when we laid the space out, we directed the space in such a way that it goes southwest, right? The homes are going to be basically due west. And we created the berms, the landscape berms, because we have a plethora of dirt there. If y'all need dirt, let me know, to create a berm to help deafen the sound for those people.
So the only thing you have other than the sound ordinance has to do with your other establishment music stops at
10 p.m.
10 p.m. So it would be reasonable to do this for this also,
But it already applies under the noise ordinance.
10 p.m.
That's all in the ordinance. It affects all of us. It just doesn't affect Marty B's.
Then we do not need to make a special
not for this.
one, okay?
Thank you for the question.
You're welcome. Thank you for the answer. That's all I've been kicking around in my head for the last month.
Is there anything we missed? Okay. Motion.
Is that the motion that you made? All that,
Um,
that you just told them? Was that your
did
motion?
Sounded
you
like
write that down? That
Yeah.
was the motion. We don't
Okay.
need a second one having to do with the sound, therefore this will be it.
Yeah, just the security provisions.
Okay. Amen.
That means she's so moved.
I so moved.
Okay.
All in favor?
Thank you, Marty.
Done.
Here.
I'm sorry.
Lori.
Looking for a motion on the fence ordinance to postpone to date certain or next meeting. We do not have the draft as we anticipated.
Need a motion to postpone the fence discussion of the fence ordinance to the next meeting or when we have table.
I second it.
Did I look confused? Because I was.
Comprehensive plan review. Where are we at?
The surveys are out.
I got mine today.
Some people received it
My
Monday,
card.
the card. The survey is up online. As of Friday, we had 32 surveys in on Survey Monkey and 1 hard copy in. Friday is when the postcards went out. Some people received them Monday and apparently
got
some
'em
are
today.
receiving them. So
I got
again,
mine Saturday.
so every Friday, we're going to look at those numbers to see if we need to do more to make sure we're getting the participation we're looking for, and remind your neighbors, fill it out because we need that information to.
What about, and it may have been discussed at the last meeting, what about the people that don't participate in the internet?
They can pick up hard copies and it should be on
It
that
was on the
postcard as
card.
well. That's why we
Yeah.
did all the mailings and they can pick up a hard copy. We've actually had 2 more people pick them up at town hall. So we have those available.
We're gonna put speakers on your car on about the 4th of October.
I need
You can
to.
drive up and down the street. saying,
Wait a minute, as long as it's not after 10 PM, yes.
And if it doesn't break the noise.
That's right.
It is ample.
Yes.
And future agenda items.
We, right now, we anticipate at your October 5th meeting, having Whataburger on for a CUP public hearing.
Anything else?
No, sir, that's all I have.
8:11.
What about